Hello, fellow YouTubers, truth seekers, and Mandela affected. I'm Darkwolf, and this is Darkwolfsdenyt. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by today. We really appreciate you coming and checking out what we're doing. This will be a follow-up video to the message video that I made a couple of days ago. What I've done is I've taken the way it was and the way it is now, and I've listed them side by side. As you can see, is at the beginning from is to was, like the Forrest Gump, Luke to no, so on and so forth. So all the Mandela effect words are listed here, and I found something really interesting in it. As I got to going down, I started doing the letters that have changed word for word, and it's interesting what I've come up with. Because if you look here on the third column, or the fourth column, all the way over to the right, it's got a group of letters there. What's really interesting is I can actually almost make a word out of this. I know I'm not the only one. If y'all look real close, you got N-E-M-A. If you mix that around, it's N-A-M-E, name. Right below that, we have is. So we've got name is. And it looks like Isa, and could be more letters that we just haven't found yet, or Esol, or they could be just mixed up. There's a problem, though. A lot of you are going to say, well, yeah, you can take any set of words and make other words out of it. Well, yeah, you can. But there's a problem here. And that's this group of words that I used, the data set that I actually used. Because the only data set that I used was Mandela effect data. And I find it really intriguing that I'm able to get this information out of just Mandela effect words. So if anybody thinks I'm onto something, please pick this up. Like I said in the last video, the coded message. If we have geometrists out there, if we have cryptographers out there, here's your little running start. Here's something to work with right here. So I appreciate everybody for watching. I hope y'all have a wonderful evening, day, night, morning, wherever you may be. And remember, as always, stay awake. Fellow YouTubers, truth seekers, and Mandela affected. I'm Darkwolf, and this is Darkwolfsdenyt. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. I do apologize that it's taken so long to get another video out. I've been waiting on somebody to get back to me with one of their theories that they're pounding out. It's going to be a minute until they get this done, so I wanted to make number 10 a special video, so I've decided to do this in a different way than normal. I hope everybody enjoys it. If you do, let me know. If you don't, please also let me know. I'm working on different things right now, different ways to make the channel better and make the videos better. So with that said, let's get started. This is the Mandela Effect Theory series. This is M.E.T.S number 10. Could a time traveler have caused the Mandela effect? So first, let's look at the theory itself. The time traveler theory states that A, someone has gone back in time, probably using CERN in tandem with D-Wave computer, although this is complete speculation concerning the means of actual travel. But perhaps they're influencing certain events in the past, thereby creating the Mandela effect. Or, an alternate to this theory, is that the time traveler themselves aren't causing any changes. Just the fact that they are time traveling at all may be messing up the stability of reality itself. So, before we go any further, when I first found the Mandela effect, I originally noticed that, like the Berenstain Bears, for instance, I always use that because it's such a great example, had been changed retroactively, which means it's not only changed now, but it's changed all the way through the past also. So the only thing I could come up with, and most people jump to the regular conclusion that it's a time traveler, which is a standard conclusion to jump to, but there's a little problem. See, in my opinion, well, we'll get into that. Let's start with the rules. Rules of time travel. The past affects the future. Now, I know somebody's looking at this going, wait, Darkwolf, we know that. Duh. Well, hold on. Let me explain what I mean. So let's go with the grandfather paradox. This states if I go back in time and I kill my grandfather, that I won't be born. Or I wouldn't be born to go back in time and kill my grandfather to begin with. So let's change this up a little bit. Let's say I go back in time and I shoot your grandfather, and you're never born. Well, now I've altered history because one of your children could have been president or the inventor that changed the entire world. So everything you do in the past affects the future. It is cause and effect, as far as we know. Because right now things appear to be linear or in a straight line. But science is questioning that every day. Which moves us on to number 2. When a change is made in the past, it will only be known as different to the actual time traveler. Now, this is the reason that I had a problem with the time travel theory to begin with. For instance, if I go back and I kill baby Hitler, I know there's a lot of killing talked about in this video today, I apologize. But if I go back and I kill baby Hitler, nobody will know the word Hitler or the name Hitler as far as rising to power in World War II. Not to say another person wouldn't do that he did, but it wouldn't be Hitler. The only one who would know Hitler did that would be me as the time traveler. When I get back to the future, everybody will know that Johnson did that, and nobody will know the name Hitler, for instance. So, if I go back and I changed Berenstein Bears to Berenstain back when it was very first created, nobody would have known it as Berenstein to know that it was changed to begin with. So, that is one of my issues with the time travel theory. However, there is ways that we can get around that, and it still could very much be a time traveler. So let's continue. One change causes many other things to change as a side effect. Rule number 3. Now, this is also known as the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is the concept that small causes can have large effects. Initially, it was used with weather prediction, but later the term became a metaphor used in and out of science. So the idea is that somewhere in Africa, a butterfly flaps its wings. And this one flap sets off a chain of events, leading all the way up to something as big as which direction a tornado decides to turn. So very, very small things can lead up in a chain of events and do cause and effect to very, very much larger things. You could look at this as saying you decide to go out to eat one day as a single person, and you run into what will be your future wife and love of your entire life. I know that it has not happened to me, but it's a great example. One small action set off a chain of events that led to a completely different line for you. Like it says in the bottom right corner here, change one thing can change everything. Now that we understand the concept, let's look at some possibilities of people who really may have traveled in time. First, we have the Philadelphia experiment. This was an experiment that happened in the 1940s. The USS Eldridge was the name of a marine ship, military marine ship, that was in the middle of an experiment in an attempt to make complete invisibility. Instead of going invisible, however, the ship did disappear, and it said that it was moved through time and landed in a port 100 miles away just moments later. And there's even stories that it traveled to something like 2037 and all kind of insane rumored stories that have happened. I can't find any definitive documentation on this, so this is the lore behind it. If you haven't looked into the Philadelphia experiment, please do. There's also a movie made about it. These are both screen caps from the movie. It was supposed to be based on the actual event. On the left is the USS Eldridge, covered in electricity, and on the right is pictures that apparently, according to the story, when it shifted out or phased out of time, some of the soldiers or seamen ended up getting stuck in the hull of the ship, literally binded to the metal of the ship, and many perished and lost their lives, according to the story. So there's one possibility of a military experiment that dealt with time travel. That's not the only military experiment that's been known to deal with time travel. It just happens to be the most famous. The Philadelphia experiment was the name also used to the first project of the nuclear bombs being dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, there is a bit of a mix-up when it comes to this, because I believe they used the name twice in order to quell the conspiracy theorist out. But I'm rambling again. Anyway, the Philadelphia experiment was where they tried to take a ship, send it into an invisible state, and accidentally ended up sending it through time and space itself, which very well may have broken some of the fabric of time and space. That was way back in the 40s, so I personally doubt it could be what led up to what's happening today, even though it's not out of the realm of idea. So, what about other time travelers then? Well, I chose the top 5 that I've found online that's most famous. If you haven't heard of any of these, please definitely Google or YouTube them. There's a lot of information on every one of the ones that I'm about to tell you about. Especially our first character, John Teeter. John Teeter showed up in an online bulletin board in around 2000 to 2001. And he claimed to come back from the future to the past, to the 1980s first, and was trying to retrieve an original IBM computer. Because apparently there's some processing capabilities that it was special made for that was needed in the future, because there was a whole bunch of issues which we'll get to, his prediction being a time traveler and if they are true or not. And also he made a lot of predictions that are yet to come true. So here's the Wikipedia on John Teeter. Name used on several bulletin boards between 2000 and 2001 by a poster claiming to be a military time traveler from 2036. In these posts, Teeter made numerous predictions about future events, some vague and some quite specific, starting with events in 2004. He described a drastically changed future in which the United States had broken up into 5 smaller regions. The environment and infrastructure had been devastated by a nuclear attack, and most other world powers had been destroyed. Before the time frame of his predicted events came and went, Teeter's story invoked curiosity and received attention from around the world. However, all the events, including an American Civil War that he had predicted from 2004 to around 2010, never happened. So we believe, generally speaking, in the conspiracy community, that this was nothing more than a large hoax perpetrated by a bunch of people, done to get the attention of late night radio host Art Bell, who still to this day is very obsessed with time travel. And I don't blame him, because honestly, it's one of my favorite concepts too. If you've seen any other of my videos, like the Back to the Future 3 Mandelism video, you'll know time travel is one of my obsessions, if you will. But wait, there's more. So there's also the story of the man from Tarrin. Now this is a really, really neat story. The man from Tarrin showed up in Japan with an odd passport one day. It was the day like any other day. He was a business traveler, and when he got to customs to stamp his passport, they noticed that he was from a country that nobody else had ever heard of before. He claimed to be from a country of Tarrin between France and Spain. Turns out that country does not exist. However, there's a country named Andorra there. And I gotta say, on a side note, when I first seen the word Andorra, I thought it had 1 R, but when I typed it in here, it made me put 2 R's. So I don't know if anybody else remembers it with 1 R. Let me know. I'm not saying it's vandalism. I'm just saying I don't remember that way, but I didn't exactly study this country either. So just putting that out. After they noticed that he didn't belong, and argued with the people for a little while that his country did exist, and was very distraught when he found Andorra on the map and not his country. He was taken to a hotel and put up with guards outside the room, and all his possessions were confiscated. However, the next morning, both he and his belongings had vanished from police custody, and to this day, nobody knows what happened to the man from Tarrin. But it's really strange that he was very convinced he was from this country that does not exist, and his passport even had multiple stamps where he had been to Japan before as a business traveler. So that was a really, really intriguing story that cannot be proven or disproven. It may very well be a time traveler, if not an interdimensional time traveler, which we will get to. So there's 2 of them. the time-traveling hipster. This is one of the most famous ones on YouTube. This one in the red circle right here, you notice, is wearing a lot of clothing that don't fit the style around him. Though apparently, upon doing some research, you'll find that the clothing all very well could have been plausible in this time frame. However, the camera that it appears to be holding in his hand looks a little newer than it should. I'm not saying it is or is not. I'm saying this is an example that is very popular and it's been given on YouTube. So if you want to do some more research into it, please always use your own discernment. Do not take everything I say for gospel. I try to get all the facts, but I'm human and even I make mistakes. So with that said, please always use your own discernment. That's the time-traveling hipster. Then we have Andrew Basiago. Now, Andrew Basiago claimed to have worked under one of these military programs called the Montauk Jump Room. And I'm assuming this is the name of the technology itself. I doubt it's a room that literally jumps. But who knows, knowing the military. This is a picture taken from the Gettysburg Address, supposedly. And the young man in the foreground here in the middle of the picture is supposed to be Andrew Basiago, at least according to his claim, who was sent back in time in order to view this very event of Abraham Lincoln. This is a claim made by Andrew Basiago. I don't know if it's true. I don't know it's not. I'm saying, again, I found this to be one of the main time travel stories online. Again, use your own discernment. Please check it out. Then we have our honorable mentions. Now, these are ones that really make you wonder about things. Like the top left corner. You notice the guy sitting on the rock. He's circled in red, of course. All of them are. Well, funny thing about that, look at his clothing. His clothing, again, doesn't seem to match the style of everyone around him. And the people around him tend to be looking at him like they're just as confused as he is to be there. It could have just popped in all of a sudden and appeared on that rock, and everybody just as surprised as he was at the same time the picture was taken. I don't know. I'm just suggesting a scenario. Below that, we have a picture from a Charlie Chaplin movie. And this is real intriguing. Some people say it could be a headset or like an earphone. But there's nobody else talking to her, though she's talking into it and laughing. So it makes you wonder exactly what is going on. If you look through the pictures, it shows her on it, on whatever the device may be. Then it shows her much more close up on that same device. And it shows her holding the device in her hand, which it does look intriguingly like a phone. But I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's my opinion. And then on the other side here, we have Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's in the middle of a fight in the 80s, maybe the 90s. Early 90s, if it is. And behind him, a guy in the audience has what appears to be maybe an iPhone or a Samsung smartphone. We didn't have smartphones in the 90s, folks. We didn't have smartphones until the 2000s, maybe even 2010s. I can't remember. I didn't look up exactly when. But I guarantee you, with the time frame in which this was recorded, those devices right there did not exist. So those are some honorable mentions I found that I couldn't exactly say were time travelers, but there are evidences to suggest they are. So that's 5 stories of time travelers that could or could not have ripped the fabric of time. I'm not saying they're all true or any of them are true. I'm saying use your own discernment once again. But these are 5 examples that could have proven somebody could have plausibly gone back in time and changed something. Now, before I continue, let's consider a concept. If it is a time traveler, perhaps they're not going back and changing the A in Berenstein, and then going forward and changing the Volvo logo, and then going backwards and changing something else. I suggest that perhaps they made one change. I perhaps suggest that a time traveler went back and changed one very insignificant detail of something. And from there, the cause and effect played out to where we have much, much larger changes that have occurred. Again, the butterfly effect playing out. I'm not sure that's what it is, but it is a very plausible theory. Let me know what you think in the comments, please. This leads us to what will be our next theory. It kind of ties into this. It's called the sliders theory. I won't get into what that actually is, but there is an idea in physics that discounts the idea of paradoxes. See, I can't go back and kill my grandfather because I wouldn't be here to go back and kill my grandfather. However, when I time traveled, if I actually went to a parallel dimension or a parallel timeline, anything I do over there is not going to affect anything over here. So I could kill my grandfather 100 different times in 100 different timelines, and this one would remain completely active and stable and solid. That's the theory. So could it be that a time traveler from another parallel dimension or parallel timeline snuck his way over here to this one, not realizing it, and is making changes on what he thinks is his own timeline, and it turns out to be ours? I still don't see how this is possible because, like we mentioned in the beginning of the video, a time traveler is the only one that will be aware of any change made when they return to their own time. So any change made in the past will be locked in from that point in the past forward. So I don't think we would know if a time traveler went back in the past and changed anything because it would be changed from there on. And we would have known it was different to begin with. Now, that said, maybe I'm wrong on that. That is only my logical assumption. I don't have anything to back me up except for simple logic, which isn't always correct. Thus, we have words like counterintuitive, because it very well could be. I don't know. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed this new style that I've went with. Please let me know if you want me to continue this, or if you want to go back to just me talking to you directly in the camera, or if you have any other ideas for things I could do. What do you think, guys? Could it be a time traveler that caused the Mandela effect? Plausible, I think. I don't know if it actually is the reason, but it is a very plausible idea that I'm not going to discount. A lot of people think it is. A lot of people think it ain't. It's up to you to decide. Please like and subscribe if you have liked this video or any of the videos that I do. I try to come out with new theories quite often. Like I said before, I do have many that are in the wings and that are waiting. I've been waiting to do them because I'm waiting on somebody else to get back to me with one of their theories. I think you guys are going to enjoy that one when they get it finalized, because when I looked over it, I was very impressed myself. I'm not going to tease too much about it, but look forward to that and many, many more coming out on the channel. I'm not going to do videos daily. I don't have enough time in my world to do videos daily. That said, I am going to try to do them at least once a week. So stick with me, guys. I'm going to work on getting time to keep these coming up for you guys. I hope you enjoy them. If you find a theory that resonates with you, like it, let me know, thumbs up, whatever you'd like to do. Maybe you can build on ideas that I've had. That's one of the reasons I put all these videos out, is so people can build on my ideas, or ideas that are presented by the entire community. This is not just me coming up with things. And hopefully, maybe in the end, we can come up with a final solution to figure out exactly what's causing this. In the meantime, it's extremely fun going over the possibilities of what could be. So I'm Darkwolf. This is Darkwolf's Den. And remember always, stay awake, but dare to dream. Thanks, everybody. Hello, fellow YouTubers, truth seekers, and Mandela affected. I'm Darkwolf, and this is Darkwolf's Den. This is Mandela Effect Theory Series number 11, the Sliders Theory, or Quantum Jumping. So what are sliders? Sliders are miniature-sized sandwiches, usually hamburgers, that are extremely tasty. They come in many, many flavors. As you see here, we got some Peking duck, some portobello mushrooms, some pan-fried fish. What does this have to do with the Mandela effect? Absolutely nothing. I just like sliders. Now, when I went to do the research for this video, I typed in sliders into Google, trying to get some stuff from the old TV show, and I ended up with a bunch of hamburgers. So I figured I'd share that with everybody. But in all seriousness, sliders theory states, or can be stated three different ways. There's three different versions of this theory. There is the idea that we're being shifted along a series of different versions of reality against our will, or by an outside entity. There's the idea that we're all being shifted out of our own individual realities and into a single one with a slight variation from our home reality, as if timelines are combining into themselves. And there's the third option: our own consciousness is causing us to shift between realities almost at will. We will explore each one of these ideas through this video, starting with number one, that we're being shifted between realities. Say, for instance, CERN and D-Wave have ripped a hole in the fabric of this dimension, and for whatever reason, are shifting us accidentally or purposely through all these different dimensions or realms. And as an accident of this, we're shifting randomly in and out. This would explain why people around us seem to suddenly change in personality virtually overnight. There's one story, Gabby, I think her name was, I could be wrong, I could very well be wrong. She was on Dr. Lupo's show last week or week before, I believe, and she was speaking about how her husband of many, many years was suddenly not the same person, telling different stories, just different weird oddities altogether. He was not the same person that he was the night before when he went to bed. So it's like he shifted in his sleep. That's what I'm talking about. Same body, same physicality, same memories, but some of the memories are slightly off and different. So it also explains why some of us seem to be affected and others are not at all, or don't seem to be anyway. Then we have our second option. We're all being shifted out of our own individual realities into a single one with slight variations from our home reality. So as you see on the screen, this is the idea that all these multiple worlds and multiple versions of Earth or multiple timelines are all coinciding into one Earth, or what we're on right now. And they could be coming together in groups almost. Like a group from one world, a group from another world. Though circumstantial, there is a lot of evidence for this. So we've got the Mandela effects that come regularly. We've got, quote, new, end quote, old YouTube content. We've got groups arriving or awakening. Not sure which one. We can discuss that. Landmass discrepancies. The multiple variations in individual Mandela effects. And astronomical anomalies or sky changes. And again, we'll go through each one of these separately. So if we are all falling into one specific realm, then I would explain why the Mandelisms appear in waves, with approximately a month between each set. This is coincidentally lining up with lunar cycles along with the Schumann frequency. This could be the arrival time of each new group of people also. So, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but it seems that the Mandela effects come in waves. I know they've mentioned this on Lupo's show a couple times, and I noticed it before it actually came out in the show. It appears to come in waves. They have a bunch of Mandela effects, then we'll have a break. They'll have a bunch of Mandela effects, then we'll have a break. So the Mandelisms keep appearing in waves or in spurts. New, old YouTube content. So this is an interesting one. Have you noticed that on YouTube, say, it's a topic that you really, really have been passionate about, something that you really enjoy, and you've watched every video for years and years of everything that's come out? Well, suddenly you're on YouTube and you're watching a video and you get your suggestions bar on the side and you got suggestions of a new video and you've never seen this before and you look at the date and it's 5 or 6 years old. That's really, really odd. It's like we slide sometimes or shift into different areas or different dimensions where we now have access to those videos where we didn't before. And yes, some could say it's Google's algorithms changing up or mixing it up. I agree, it very well could be. Or it could be evidence of something else. We must be open-minded and use discernment at all times. As a side note, there is one thought that has occurred to me a couple times, and I've heard a bunch of different people say this. Do you think that it is possible that perhaps, just maybe, when we connect to the internet and we talk to people, that some of them may literally be in another realm connecting to this one? So say I've got dimension E and dimension A, and I'm in dimension E, and I'm connected to the internet, but I'm connecting to somebody in dimension A. But I wouldn't know the difference because it looks just as normal as I am right now. So it's just a side thought. I'm not saying that's what's going on by any means. Disclaimer, disclaimer. This is not Darkwolf saying this is it. This is just a side thought that I do find extremely intriguing, and there's nothing that says it can't actually be happening. So that said, let's get back to where we were. The third thing is group awakenings or arrivals. And it seems that the wave of Mandela effects, there are also waves of people who seem to be awakening to the Mandela effect all at once. It's almost like they're arriving on this new planet or new version of Earth, and they're looking around going, wait a minute, that's different than what I remember. What's going on? And it's like they're arriving in a new spot and then looking around and seeing stuff's changed and not quite understanding. And it does seem to be appearing in groups of people. So it could be that they're arriving from another Earth, or it could just be they're all waking up to what's going on. Either one's very, very interesting possibility. So next we have the land discrepancies. Now, anybody who's been studying the Mandela effect for any amount of time has run across the different land changes. Like South America being way, 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 way further right under Florida than under California, as I remember it. Many others do too. New Zealand being below Australia, not above it, which a lot of people remember otherwise. Japan being moved up, bumped up closer to North Korea. Just all these different oddities in the map that I don't remember being there. Or the North Pole ice cap that no longer exists and apparently never did. So one explanation of the landmass changes could be that we're remembering the map we remember from another reality, from the Earth that we were from originally. Like the man from Torred swore that this country was between France and Spain, where the country Andorra actually sits. So perhaps in his Earth or in his timeline, Andorra was actually Torred, and it was a completely different history. We do know this is a documented case in history. So it does beg the question, could we really be sliding between dimensions or timelines or whatever the word you would like to use in that instance? Moving on. So the Mandela effect people's affected differences. This is a really, really odd part of the phenomenon. Different people seem to be affected by different Mandela effects, and not everyone remembers every Mandela effect. So I point to things like Brian Haggerty. If you haven't checked his channel out, go ahead. I'm not name dropping as far as this one goes, but he was on Dr. Lupo's show a couple weeks ago, and he was speaking about how he remembers Berenstain always being Berenstain. I remember Berenstain and always will. There's many of them that just did not connect with him at all. They weren't Mandela effects for him. However, when it came to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, the man almost flipped his lid. And that's what clicked for him with the Mandela effect. That Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood went from "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood" to "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood." It don't even sound right to me, but this isn't about Mandelisms. Anyway, the fact that other people aren't affected the same way, yet they are affected by Mandela effects, is just really, really strange to me. Is it possible that we're remembering things like Berenstain from our home world? And some of us can be from a world that more closely matches this one than others are. So perhaps in some of the people's worlds, Berenstain was an A. And for me and a majority of others, in our worlds, and yes, I said worlds, not world, perhaps Berenstain was always an E for us people, us group of people that come from that version of timelines. So the idea here is you've got multiple versions of timelines, just to recap. Multiple Earths layered on top of each other that are starting to fall apart and all combine into one
single Earth, from a duality to a singularity, in other words. And some people have suggested the S falling off of some words and being added to others could suggest this, and it very well could. I'm not saying it isn't. It is intriguing as can be. And we went through all kind of different reasons why, so far, this could be possible, from the landmass changes to all the other things. Moving along, we've got one more thing to discuss on this particular part of the theory, or what could be this theory. Number 6, sky and star differences. The Mandela affected people all seem to agree that the sky looks completely different. The constellations are not positioned correctly, and many, many stars cannot be seen anymore. This could be due to being moved to another Earth with a slightly different sky. Personally, I think Orion's belt is not at the right angle. And to me, Orion's belt is about 15 degrees off. It should be more of a 45-degree angle, and to me, it's more of a 30-degree angle at the moment. So, I believe we could be actually looking at it from another point of view, or from another Earth altogether. This is just one of the many pieces of evidence to suggest that we could all be coming from different Earths and being pushed or falling into this one for whatever reason. And we can always speculate on the whys, and we'll do that shortly in the video. So now, back to what we were talking about. I do remember one time watching the sunset in a completely opposite spot than it normally did. So I worked at a local restaurant. I'm not going to name drop the restaurant, but it had a very, very large glass window set along its drive-through area. And every day from where I worked in the grill, I could see the most gorgeous sunsets I had ever seen. And one day I noticed the sun wasn't setting in the right spot. It was absolutely opposite where it always set. And I pointed this out to a coworker, and he also agreed, no, that's odd, that's not right. But as I've told this story later on, people have told me how insane I am, about the same answers I get when I talk about, I don't know, the Mandela effect. So I have seen the sun rise in the wrong spot. I have noticed different oddities with the moon. I've noticed that the moon is not the way I remember it. The crater formations are not correct to me. The fact that we get a Cheshire quarter now instead of a regular, or a Cheshire crescent instead of a regular crescent most of the time, that's quite odd to me too. Another thing is, I remember being taught that we're on the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way. Anybody who's seen the really old show Cosmos that was originally created in the 70s, there's a scientist named Carl Sagan who clearly states we are on the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way in the far outskirts of our galaxy. Well, now people have apparently always been taught that we are on the Orion Spur. The Orion Spur and the Milky Way, I wish I used a picture in here to give it a little more visual, but there's about 80,000 light years difference. That's going from the very edge of a circle to halfway to the middle of a circle. A very big difference here. The circle, of course, being the Milky Way. So this is just one more piece of evidence to suggest that we're not only shifting our thought patterns, but are literally shifting into a different version of Earth altogether, with a different sky and different everything. So that is one of the last pieces of evidence I have for this part of the theory. There is one more variation of this theory that we're going to cover, and that would be the third variation. Bear with me just one second. Oh, one side note, again, I apologize. Whether we are sliding, shifting, whatever you would like to say, hourly, daily, weekly, yearly, or at will, the differences in these realities could be something as small in a blade of grass as a blade of grass in someone's yard that wasn't existent in the previous reality. So say today, right this moment, I shift to a new reality, or my consciousness shifts to a new reality. We'll come on that in a minute. So the only thing different in this reality than the other one could just very well be a blade of grass in my own yard, or my neighbor's yard, or wherever it may be. And everything else in this reality could be exactly the same as it was in the other one. I wouldn't be any different or any wiser to the difference. Yet I could have shifted into a completely different reality, and I wouldn't have even known it. Perhaps we are shifting steadily through realities, and once we start to get to the ones that aren't so much like our world, we start to notice the bigger changes, and we start to put together that something's going on, like the Mandela effect. This is, of course, all theory. This is a theory series video. So please understand, I just ask you to consider the possibility, use your own discernment, and come up with whatever you think could be happening. So, moving on. Now, moving to the next part 3. Is it possible that we are able to use our consciousness as a tool to shift in and out of different realities at will? So, could I sit and meditate long enough and shift myself in and out of a reality? That's what this is asking. I call this free will dimensional shifting. So, people like Cynthia Sue Larson have made claims that they can shift themselves into other dimensions or shift other dimensions into this one using their own consciousness or through meditation. Many shamans have also claimed to walk between worlds. There are even stories of shamans that literally have brought someone out of one world or reality or dimension or whatever word you would like to use and into this one. One man actually walked past his own grave every day as he went to work because this version of him had died, and his family begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded this shaman and paid him a large sum of money, and the shaman finally, against his own better judgment, agreed to do this. So he did whatever ritual they do and did what they call world walking. Literally walked into this other realm, grabbed the guy by the arm, and walked him into this one. So this is not a commonplace thing, but in some tribes and whatnot, it is actually very well known. So we have to at least take this into consideration that we've got early cultures, and I'm not talking ancient cultures. I mean cultures that aren't first world, say third world tribal cultures, who know the secrets of how to do this. If these secrets were picked up by the wrong person, they could very well use them against humanity and create things like the Mandela effect. I'm not saying that's what's going on. I'm suggesting a possibility. So Cynthia Sue Larson, back to the last slide I was talking about just a moment ago, she told a story of her and her friend had locked their car keys in a trunk and was meditating and concentrating on it, and the car keys literally appeared in the air in front of them and fell to the ground. So there's multiple cases I've heard over time of things like this. She's not the first one to make these kind of claims. She's just the latest one that I've heard, and the best example I could come up with just quickly. So, moving along, I have to ask the question now in this part of the theory, could these actually be possible or even plausible? Even if they're not possible entirely, could it be plausible for any of this to happen? Well, I've come up with 4 reasons why it very well may be. From CERN to quantum physics to our own consciousness to just being absolute natural phenomenon that may very well have been hacked or not. It could just be a natural phenomenon that we're coming upon. So starting out with CERN. CERN has admitted that they are attempting to open doors to other realities. There's a TEDx talk with a guy named Jordy Rose, and he works for D-Wave Computers. They've also said that their product is designed to open up, quote, doorways, end quote, to other realities, end quote, pull their resources into this one, end quote. This is from Jordy Rose's TEDx talk on D-Wave quantum computers. I will attempt to find a link, but I cannot promise to leave it in the description. I will try. But what we have here is 2 different companies who have both said we're trying to open doors to another reality and who have both been known to work together. As a matter of fact, D-Wave, or at least one of their computers, is located in CERN. They use this to do their calculations, supposedly. I think it goes a little more deeper than that, but we can speculate on that all day long. I'm throwing the idea out there like I do in almost every video. I really think that they are a catalyst, if not the cause. I'm not saying they are the cause. I think they're a part of. So, anyway, CERN and D-Wave could very plausibly have figured out a way to open the dimensional realms, or the doorways they kept talking about, and port us through different realities, whether intentional or accidental. So then we have quantum physics. So say there's an impending doom on our home planet, and CERN and D-Wave found a way to open that dimensional rift and send our consciousness through it into this dimension. The fact that our bodies are physically different now would suggest that our consciousness, not our physical bodies, are being shifted. So quantum physics suggests that consciousness could be ported or moved through dimensions and realities through some kind of rift. How? Through quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. It says that every particle has a sister particle, or one just like it, that is connected to it. So with this said, it could be possible that our consciousness is being flipped back and forth between two or more quantum entangled versions of ourselves in different realities. So quantum entanglement states that, say, a neuron in my brain is a single atomic structure. It could be quantumly entangled with the same neuron in the brain of every parallel version of me that ever existed and ever will. So I could theoretically have that kind of knowledge, even though I don't know how to access it yet. This is only theory, but quantum physics states this is completely within the realm of science. Now, that said, I'd like to take a second to make a note about Quantum Leap. As far-fetched as this may seem, if you do remember the show Quantum Leap, he didn't travel through time as a physical person. Sam Beckett didn't look like Sam Beckett every episode. He looked like whoever's body his consciousness entered into. So to say we're being shifted could necessarily not mean our bodies are shifting. It could just very well mean that we're literally having our consciousness shifted along these different timelines, because that's what our awareness would be our consciousness. And that leads us into quantum consciousness. From quantum physics experiments like the double slit experiment, we find that our own consciousness, even merely consciously observing this experiment, affects the outcome. If you don't know what the double slit experiment is, look it up. I may very well do a video on this because I use it so much as examples in my videos. So I may do a breakdown video like I did with Parallel Worlds and explain exactly what the concept is behind this experiment and the repeating of this experiment over and over and over. In the case of the double slit, quite dramatically, our thoughts change the outcome. And the intent we put into it really, really has a lot to do with it, I think. Whether we're subconsciously or consciously putting that intent into it, that is merely speculation on my part. But we have proven that consciousness affects the outcome of certain experiments like the double slit. The reason why science is still up in the air about quantum is a very, very strange set of mechanics of physics. If you're interested in it, please look up more about it. I beg anybody who's found anything interesting in this video or any of my do so far, please, please, please do research. Do not take my word or anybody else's. Do your own research, verify, and use discernment. All I can do is put the ideas that I know out there, the research that I found out there, and let everybody make their own decisions. And quantum consciousness, that is an interesting idea because it's literally speaking of manifesting reality. And some people might think, well, you're talking new agey stuff. Well, no, not really at all. Because I've always said the Christians have a word for it, it's prayer. The Buddhists call it meditation. The Satanists have a word, dark rituals. The New Age call it law of attraction. But they're all saying the exact same thing. And if you look back across the ancient cultures, they even say it quite a bit. They're all speaking of manifestation. They're just using different words to describe it. There's stories in and out of the Mandela effect community that talk of manifesting things all the time. The law of attraction, law of one, that's a big one you can find nowadays. And they're all saying the same thing. They're putting energy, they're putting their own energy into an idea or a thought form. And the more energy you put into that thought form, the more likely it is to become a solid reality. That is the idea of manifestation. And I've seen things manifest in my own life. So I cannot say this isn't real. Christians will swear by it. They just call it prayer. But it's the exact same thing. It's putting energy into something and getting a reality-based answer back out. So the fourth option that could be plausible for this theory is that it's just a natural occurrence. That the Mandela effect could be the name for something that has been happening for all of time. We're just not aware of it until the internet allowed us to begin comparing notes. Now, that said, there is a video you can look up from a guy named Philip K. Dick. He was a very famous sci-fi writer. And to all those that are giggling and snickering right now at the name, don't worry. I did the same thing when I first heard it, so I don't blame you. But the writer, Philip K. Dick, he's, yeah, there it is again. He's known for books and movies like Total Recall and A Scanner Darkly, which are really, really great movies. And he spoke of reality being, quote, a simulation, end quote, that you don't notice until, quote, some small variable is changed, end quote. And now if that doesn't sound like the Mandela effect, I don't know what is. He was following along the idea of simulation theory, but it could just very well point to a natural occurrence, because that was over 50 years ago when he was speaking of this. And we're just now bringing these concepts back up within the Mandela effect. So one more thing I'd like to cover before I end this would be shifting sickness. This is also called ascension symptoms or ascension sickness. This has been described by many of the people in the Mandela effect community, especially when the human resonance gets really high, which could explain it. Or it could be the fact that people are literally being shifted and these are some side effects that are happening. Right after someone reports a shift, they report feeling nauseous, dizzy, headaches, many symptoms of vertigo. I've heard vomiting. I've heard just really, really odd things, memory lapses, just a whole lot of oddities that go on right after a shift. The body feeling really, really odd. And this is not just one person that have made these claims. There are multiple people who have made ascension symptom or shifting sickness claims. So if some of these are happening to you, you might have a medical issue, or if you can go to the doctor and figure out there's no real legit reason this should be happening, you may be experiencing a shift. So, what do you think, guys? Do you think that we, or at least our consciousness, could be sliding through different dimensions? If so, why do you think it could be occurring? Do you think the CERN and D-Wave have mastered what they were trying to do? Do you think it could be our own consciousness causing it and we're not aware we're manifesting things? A whole world of people manifesting stuff they have no idea they're manifesting. Or could it be natural occurrences? Just something that's always been going on and we're just now figuring it out. I'm going to leave this out to you guys. This is Mandela Effect Theory Series video number 11. This is the Sliders Theory. If you guys think this is possible, let me know. If you think the reasons behind it are possible, please definitely also let me know. I look forward to hearing from everybody in the chats. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up and let us know that you like this video or any of them we do on this channel. It's you guys that keep us going. I must drop an apology really quickly. It has taken me about 2 weeks now to get this video out. It is partly because of research. However, I had a computer system at one point. I had everything on. I was doing research for this. I was working on the slideshow for this. And wouldn't you know, the darn thing took a crap out on me. So I had to completely go get a brand new system with no information, and I had to start all over again. I went from a Windows system to an Android system. So that's why it's taken a while to get things out. I've had to get a whole new set of programs to work with Android that don't work with Windows. I've had to figure out a whole new way of making these videos for you guys using Android, not Windows. It's really been a fun learning curve, but I do it for you guys. I do it so I can get these ideas out here. I hope everyone's enjoying it. I do apologize it's taken so long. Hopefully now I've got a format that I can use that works very safely, very steadily, that wouldn't be breaking down on me like the other one did. If you haven't noticed me down here in the right-hand corner, I'm down here. Hi, everybody. Hope you have noticed by now. Anyway, make sure you hit that thumbs up button so when I am able to post videos, you guys can find out about it. Make sure you hit the bell and the subscribe button. Because if you hit subscribe, you'll find out, yes, when you go to my channel, you'll find out it'll be in your subscription feed. However, if you hit the bell, you'll actually get a notification as soon as I upload a video. Like everyone who's got the notifications coming up when I upload this video to YouTube, and when it goes out across amongst the public, that's because they hit that bell button right there. So y'all make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up. We appreciate everybody who's come by to join us. We love having you guys here. If you have any ideas on future videos, please drop me a line. I've got a whole lot more theories coming out, guys. So I look forward to seeing everyone again in hopefully just a week. I hope it don't take 2 more weeks. If it does, I'll see you on the next video. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody who is within the sound of my voice, remember, please stay awake, but always dare to dream.